to become a neo-Darwinist, and I believed in what they called punctuated equilibrium. Long periods of nothing happened and then rapid change so quick that you can't pick it up in the fossil record. That was the only choice. The other choice was too ghastly to contemplate, and that is that there is a God who says, let there be, as you say. He spoke and it stood fast. That was too ghastly to contemplate. Let me show you something interesting. This is a petrified tree. And here you have upright petrified trees. Now geologists will tell you that creationists are slightly skew in the head, because an upright tree tells you that that tree grew there. And in some areas, like in Yellowstone, you find up to 40 and more of these layers of forests, one on top of the other. They're also all in flat sheets, very interesting. And there are upright trees. So they say there couldn't have been a universal flood, because what happened here was a forest grew, was covered by volcanic ash, and the next forest grew, that was covered by volcanic ash. Thousands of years later, the next forest grew, that was covered, and so on, 40 times and more on top of each other. And because the trees are upright, like you can see them standing over here, they must have been in position of growth. If you count the rings, some of these trees are hundreds of years old, therefore they must be millions of years old, these layers, and a flood that happened in a period of 1 year, 17 days, forget it. And it's a very good argument. So let's have a look at these trees and see what we can see. There's an upright tree, and there's an upright tree, and some of them are very big. You can count the rings. You can see that they are old trees, and they occur in layers, one on top of the other. Now here's one, and this one stretches through more than one layer. And if you look at the root stump, the roots are gone. In fact, when you start digging them out, you will find that the upright ones are without roots. Also very interesting is they don't have any bark, and there are no branches. Now if you're going to bury a forest in volcanic ash, are you going to destroy the roots, yes or no, if they stay upright? No, you shouldn't. Secondly, you're going to bury the branches as well, aren't you? But the branches aren't there. And that's very strange. Now not all the trees are upright, like this one over here is lying horizontally. And here's a whole host of them lying horizontally, and they're all pointing in the same direction. There's one, there's one, there's one, there's one, there's one, and there's one. So they're all lying in the same direction. Again, you run into the dinosaur problem. All these trees lying in the same direction. Any reason why they should be lying in the same direction? So they measured them, and they see in each layer they're lying in the same direction. And if you take a present forest, there doesn't appear to be the same sort of situation. So in these mountains, all these layers have these flat sheets of forest with upright trees in them. Okay, now if you're going to cover a forest with ash, you're going to cover the forest floor as well, right? And here are two forest floors just this far apart. And sometimes these so-called forest floors are halfway up a trunk, but they should be at the bottom. So they took some of these forest floors, polished them, took them to the lab, and saw that they are leaves and pine needles and twigs sorted according to the way in which they settle out in water. So the entire forest floors, so-called, are water sorted. Very interesting. So these forests grew underwater. Here's one that's dug out, an upright one, and you can see that the roots are what? Torn out. So these trees don't have roots. And the layers that you have show that there was turbidite activity. In other words, these were mud flows, and they weren't typical volcanic ash deposits. And the material is brexia, which shows that it formed underwater. So everything here again happened in association with water. Now look at what happened in this area. It's still very volcanic. As you can see, there is a typical geyser. And I'm going to take you to Mount St. Helens. This mountain gives us a clue. Look at this huge glacier on the top and these beautiful lakes at the bottom. And in 1980, there were 2 cycles of eruption. This is a lake called Spirit Lake. There's the beautiful glacier on the top. And this mountain erupted, and there were 2 cycles, 1 month apart. And the first cycle melted the ice cap, and the water ran down the south side of the mountain. And it formed flash floods. So here come the flood waters. Eventually there were raging torrents. The trees were starting to be ripped out. There was a major water catastrophe. A month later there was an explosion. Now let's first look at the first one. Here are the trees that were ripped out by water alone. And here you can see them lying. I'm standing on some of them. And here they are. And what do you see? They're lying largely in a direction. And what about the roots? They're ripped out. And where are the branches? The branches are gone. So as these trees churn in the water, they bash up against each other, and the branches are stripped. And you can see a very big tree lying over there, where the rootstock totally ripped off. And there you can see dents in the sides. So as these logs bash against each other, the bark is stripped. So here these trees lie, orientated by stream direction. They don't have any branches, they don't have any roots, and they don't have any bark, just like in the petrified forest, and they're lying in a direction. And the layers also show rapid formation. Now a month later, there's an earthquake, and there's a big slide and a major eruption. There you go. There's the biggest slide witnessed by modern scientists, and a massive blast with the power of 500 Hiroshima atomic bombs going off at the same time. Boom! Huge mushroom cloud. This was photographed from about 36 miles away, and you see this huge mushroom cloud rising. The forest now on the north side is blasted away. The south side is intact, leaving its evidence lying behind. Now, as this huge quantity of rock falls down, it falls into the lakes and causes giant tidal waves and washes these trees back into the lakes, and at the same time makes canyons. Now, let's have a look at some of this. So everything is blasted away. This is what it looked like before the blast. Beautiful forests and lakes. And after the blast, it looks like a pile of mud and mud puddles. Here is a steam crater. If you look carefully, you can see there's a man as a scale over there. And this is hot lava falling down and exploding and forming this crater within seconds. And this canyon over here was formed within seconds. As this rock fell into the lakes, huge tidal waves came and whoosh, washed out that canyon in literally seconds. And then when you look at the layers of rock that formed, scientists in the old times would have considered that